Welcome back to the Mad Spiderverse. I'm Mad Spidey, and once again, thank you very much for tuning into my channel. Trying to look through my, recent videos and things like that, and I say this quite a bit. Sometimes I tend to overdo some video series, like I might do a bit too much of my statue collection, which I know I said I'd ramp up a little bit, obviously because of the Comic Book Community Awards, and which I have done to a certain extent. Obviously my artist series is another one. I can't necessarily do my Mad Mail calls as much as what I'd love to, because honestly I don't actually get that many parcels. Not like some of the YouTube guys that literally just get, box after box after box. One, I don't have those kind of funds, and two, obviously being in Australia, I don't get much overseas stuff, which is fine. I'm happy with that. But sort of, looking through, and I'm like, I need to do something that I haven't done for a little while. And I actually had a look, and I'm like, my comic wish list. I actually haven't done one of these videos in almost 4 months. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize it had actually been that long since I've done one. So I think this might be the, excuse me, might be the 7th installment, I think. Or part 7, part 6, part 7, I think it's part 7. As I've mentioned before in these particular videos and online and, in a lot of live streams, things like that, I have quite an extensive list, or comic wish list. There's a lot of runs I'm trying to fill, a lot of keys I'm trying to, get. Obviously with limited funds, limited resources, or I have resources, but obviously, a lot of it's overseas, currency conversions, shipping costs and everything like that. It can get quite hard, really. And obviously I've stated plenty of times before that, buying books over here is not easy at all. Obviously buying brand new books, you can pretty much walk in any comic shop and, as long as it's not like high ratios or store exclusives and stuff, those things are really hard to get. But like the older books, like I love my older books. I love my Silver Age. I love my Copper and my Bronze Age, Marvel books. That's what I like to focus on if I'm hunting, going to a con, stuff like that. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm always trying to knock off stuff off the list, or just, as I said, fill some runs. Obviously, trying to complete my Amazing Spider-Man run, which is near impossible now. 4 books to go still. At least it's not 5. I did knock off 1. But 4 big books. Hard to get. Or should I say, look, it's dollars. Basically, it's dollars. But there's a lot of keys and issues and things like that I'm trying to get. A lot of runs, as I said, Amazing Spider-Man, Defenders, Invaders from the Bronze Age, and a few other runs and things like that I'm just trying to, just niggle away at a little bit. I'll get there eventually, or maybe I'll get there eventually, but as I always say never. You never know what could crop up, and what opportunities may arise. So anyway, let's get into this comic wish list. Try not to make these comic wish list videos ridiculously long. Some of them have been quite long, but let's get stuck into it. Now I think it's another 8 or 9 books that I'm going to spotlight today that are on my comic wish list that I really want to knock off one of these days. Some of these are actually, I think most of these books are not really massive books, like not your Amazing Spider-Man 1 or X-Men 1, like those sort of big books. They're a little bit more achievable, which is, I like to have a good mix. I don't want obviously I want all of the big boy books that are on my list, but there are a lot of sort of, lower sort of keys where there are, major key, minor key, classic cover, anything like that. There's a mixture of everything. So anyway, let's get stuck into it. So the first one I'm going to mention today is Giant Size Chillers #1, which is the first appearance of Lilith, which is the daughter of Dracula. Very cool cover. Another one of the runs I'm trying to, finish off is Tomb of Dracula. Even though Giant Size Chillers is not really a Tomb of Dracula book, obviously it has Dracula and Lilith on the cover. It's a book I've always wanted, and To be perfectly honest, I may have only seen it once over here. Love to own that book one of these days, but yeah, that's definitely on the list. The next one is a bigger book, not a real big boy book, but it is a bigger book, and that's Tales of Suspense 52, which is the first appearance of the Black Widow. Obviously, I'd love to get all the first appearances of all the Avengers. Black Widow is a little bit more of an achievable one. It's still not a cheap book, but it's probably a bit more of an achievable one out of, the main core Avengers lineup. So yeah, definitely on the list and definitely something I want to cross off. The next one's a little bit of a stranger one. Strange Tales, number 89, and that's the first appearance of Fin Fang Foom. Now, he's always been like just one of those characters, creatures, villains, whatever you want to sort of call him. It's always, I just love the design, big, like dragon, sort of green dragon, he just looks very cool. Villain I've always been sort of intrigued by, and I'd love to own his first appearance. But obviously, Strange Tales 89 is a little bit more in the sort of the monster realm of, like the Kirby era monsters sort of stuff. And yeah, it's a very rare book over here. I've never seen it over here. Never seen it, never held it. But it's just a book I've always wanted. So yeah, hopefully one day. So the next one is a little bit of a sort of more of a minor key, I suppose. It's another Strange Tales book, and it's 115, which is actually the second appearance of the Sandman. So obviously, first appearance of Sandman, Amazing Spider-Man number 4 is one of those 4 books I still need from my Amazing run. Obviously, if I can't afford or can't find a number 4 or a first appearance, go for a second appearance. But it's one of those ones where like a lot of the main Spidey characters, they're in like the first sort of 15 to 20 books, or the villains, should I say, their second appearances were in other people's books or other characters' books. So it's classic cover, awesome book, really love it. I think there's a retelling of Doctor Strange's origin and a few other bits and pieces in that book as well. But yeah, really love to grab that book as well. The next one is it can be a very pricey book. It's not really a massive key book, but it's more of a key for what actually happens in the book, not a first appearance or anything like that. But it's actually Fantastic Four number 12, and that's actually the first battle between Hulk and the Fantastic Four. So very classic cover, book that's, once again, maybe I've said it once, maybe twice, but not a cheap book. Definitely not a cheap book over here. I don't know what it's like over in the States or Canada, but yeah, it's definitely not a cheap book here. But yeah, definitely one that I do want to acquire someday. The next one is another Fantastic Four book. This one's probably a bit more achievable. It's Fantastic Four number 33, and that's the first appearance of Atuma. It's not Atuma, it's Atuma. Obviously, Atlantis villain, more sort of towards, Submariner and Namor, sort of things like that. But his first appearance was in the Fantastic Four. Definitely one that I have seen a few times, but it's never been in a price that I've been able to go, oh, yep, I'll just grab that. But yeah, it's definitely a book that, I've always wanted to get. I love my villain first appearances. Obviously, hero first appearances are awesome, but I also love villain first appearances. So it's definitely a book I want to try and get one of these days, and yeah, hopefully I will. So the next one is another Fantastic Four book, and that's number 112. Now, the only key that I know personally is literally just iconic cover. This is the all black cover with just Hulk and the Thing about to face off. Absolute classic cover. Once again, maybe seen it once or twice over here. It's never been a cheap book, even though it's only a key as far as I know. because of that battle on the front cover. So a bit like your Silver Surfer 4 with, you know, Thor and Silver Surfer, like it's only a key because of that cover. It's another one like that where it's like, it's not like a, you know, sub 10 Fantastic Four book, it's in the hundreds, but it's still, yeah, just a pricey book over here. But yeah, definitely a book that I'd like to tick off the list anyway. The next one is Marvel Spotlight number 12, which is the first full appearance of Son of Satan, Damon Hellstrom. His first cameo was in Ghost Rider number 1 in the Bronze Age, but this is his first full appearance, and obviously I think also first full cover appearance, I think, as well. Awesome cover, absolutely love the cover. He's just one of those characters that, once again, has sort of intrigued me. Really wanted to sort of, you know, dive into him a little bit more. Like a lot of, you know, I like my B and C grade sort of characters as well, that, you know, or even, you know, the more sort of supernatural type characters. I love those sort of things too. So yeah, I'd really love to be able to get that book one of these days. And once again, another one that's not exactly the most common of books over here. And the last book is Uncanny X-Men 141. Now, if you know the book, everybody's seen the cover before, or most people have seen the cover before. It's that classic Days of Future Past Part 1 book, obviously with, I think it's Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, and it's got all the, like the wanted posters, and it's got, like, you know, apprehended, slain, you know, and all that sort of stuff in the background. Absolutely, I've always wanted that book. I just love that cover. It's just an awesome cover. Obviously the main key elements of that is, yeah, the start of the Days of Future Past saga. It is also, I believe, the first appearance of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Now you're gonna say to me, no, Brotherhood of Evil Mutants was X-Men 4. But I'm talking about, I think it's just a new iteration of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. It is the first appearance, I think it's Destiny, Pyro, Avalanche. There may be a few more in there, I think, as well. I think maybe it might even be the first appearance of Rachel Summers as well. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But yeah, so it's sort of the new version of Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So yeah, definitely a book that I've always wanted. And I remember back in the early days, I used to see that book for $30, $40, especially in one particular shop. I know he always had a copy or a couple of copies of it. And I'm like, oh, I can't spend that kind of money. I'm on, you know, ridiculous low wages at that time. And I was just like, I really love that book, but I could never afford it. And now I'm like, I wish I'd see it for $50. You know, if it was $50, I'd buy it straight away and I'd be so happy. But yeah, once again, never say never. You never know when that book might show up and I might have a chance of buying it. But yeah, I haven't actually seen it. I haven't probably seen that book in maybe over here, maybe 2 decades, maybe a little less. Not a very common book too. You see a lot of the more, you know, sort of the other version, like 142, 143, things like that. You've seen that. I think I might actually have 142 and 143. But yeah, not much of 141, unfortunately. But, you know, something to chase down eventually. So, but that's going to do. I've talked long enough. Also, massive thank you to anybody who's been doing a sub push for me. As it stands from this video, 1 sub away from 500. Obviously, we know it's going to happen. I'll eventually hit 500, and then I'll probably take a couple subs away, and then I've got to go through it all again. But yeah, thank you to anybody who's actually done a little sub push for me. I greatly appreciate it. I know my brother Remy did one for me, Remy Q Studios. But yeah, I'll get there eventually. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. That's the end of this video. I've talked long enough. Whether anybody watches it or not, I greatly appreciate it if you do. But do all the usual YouTubey stuff. Leave a comment if you wish to. Give me any more information on any of the books that I've mentioned and shown. Obviously, hit the thumbs up. You know, everybody says it helps the algorithm. Tries to get more eyes on your channel and your videos and things like that. So I greatly appreciate if you do that as well. Most of all, subscribe if you haven't. That'd be greatly appreciated. But anyway, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and Spidey out.